Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Righteous Indignation TV News. I am your host, Right Hypocrite. I'll say anything to keep our ratings up because that makes me lots of money. And if you disagree with me or call me out on my bull feathers, then I'll just do my righteous indignation stick. It goes like this. What? It's my right to say that. See? That's how it works. So, tonight, our guest is Dr. Chance Binomial. He's a specialist in probability assessment and risk assessment.
Good evening, Mr. Hypocrite. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you a bit about probabilities and this COVID pandemic. How's that all work? I mean, it seems to me the probability of me actually being exposed to COVID is pretty low.
You're right. The probability per contact with another person is pretty low. Problem is, you meet a lot of people throughout the day and over time. Consider car accidents. The probability of you having a car accident this afternoon specifically is pretty low. But the more you drive, the greater the chances of you being in an accident of some sort. That may not be a fatal accident. It may just be a fender bender, or you may get hurt but recover fully, or you may get killed. And you might kill somebody else. Now, even with car accidents, they aren't spread exponentially. So that's an additional problem with infectious contagious disease. Sure, the probability of a specific individual catching it on a specific date is very low, but the probability of somebody catching it is, 100%. Models and epidemiologists don't attempt to predict you as an individual, whether or not you'll get it or when you'll get it, but we can say with reasonable confidence that it will grow exponentially and more people will get it unless we change our behavior.
But it's awfully hard on small businesses and stuff. Most of these restrictions happen to have a really hard impact on small business.
Yes, they do. I'm not saying it's fair, but I'm saying if you want to address the biology, you need to reduce the number of contacts you have. How society helps those small businesses is a separate question. We need to address the biology. That's the only stuff that viruses pay attention to. So we need to address the biology so that we control the virus until we get vaccines out there and lots of people immune, while at the same time figuring out how we can help those small businesses survive. But that's a question for society, not for biology. By reducing the number of times you go out, reduce how many people you meet, and being careful, kind of analogous to having good brakes and good tires, wearing a mask, always distancing. Distancing, a good analogy is, not tailgating. Well, that's the same thing. Stay far apart. Then you greatly reduce the probability of the virus spreading. And that helps overall at the population level and literally helps exponentially at the population level. Again, you always need to remember, infectious contagious disease spreads exponentially. Interviews taking place in mid-January 2021, for example, in the United States, they're up to over 4,000 deaths a day from COVID. They took several months to 100,000 deaths, but then it doubles from 100,000 to 200,000 in the same length of time it took to double from 400 to 800 cases. But instead of doubling from 400 to 800, it doubled from 100 to 200,000. And now we're up to essentially 400,000 have doubled again. So when it doubles again, in the next few months, that'll be 800,000 people dead, And then another problem is this new strain that was isolated in England. Clearly, it spreads more easily. It's already here in North America. It's going to spread the same here.
Well, how do you know that?
We know that because look at what happened in Italy in the past. We didn't pay attention to it. We said, oh, well, that's Italy. Yeah. And then comes to North America and we sort of sit and look around at each other and whatever, it won't happen here. But of course it happens here. It will happen here too with this new strain. So if we continue on the same course now with the same amount of spread with the less contagious strain, if we don't change our behavior, it will get far worse. There's a pretty high probability we will see, double from 400,000 deaths to 800,000 and possibly 1,600,000 deaths. That's entirely possible, okay, if we continue on the same trajectory.
Well, the probability of me actually being exposed to COVID is pretty low. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but that's just my opinion. It's unright to say that.
Well, that's that's part of the problem. Free speech and expressing your opinion about, I don't know, you like this movie versus that movie, or this band versus that band, or that's all, your opinion and freedom of speech. Fine. But when you start giving your opinion about stuff you don't really know how it works, such as spread of infectious contagious disease, I'm not criticizing you, it's just that you haven't studied that, so you don't know. Okay? But when you start giving your opinion there, even if you say, make it clear, look, I'm not a doctor, I don't know what I'm talking about, but in my opinion, this isn't as dangerous as they're all saying it is. Talking head on the show, you have influence. So you expressing your opinion on the show has a lot more weight than if you were, a regular citizen and you just said this over coffee with your buddy on a patio, okay? In that case, only your buddy, can agree or disagree with you. But on this show, because of your influence, the number of people who listen to you, some of them, even though you say you're not a doctor, might be influenced by your opinion, which is medically wrong. And people can die from that, from you expressing your opinion. That's not free speech. That's you influencing people with your opinion, and people die from that. Okay, so be careful. It's not an assault on free speech to say you shouldn't have an opinion on this. It's just be careful when you have such influence to be accurate. You can express your opinion, but have multiple guests on here to show how what you're saying actually is simply not true. And if people want to be careful and not get themselves killed or kill someone else or cause exponential spread, they might want to listen to people who know what they're talking about instead of just some guy with an opinion who doesn't really know what he's talking about in this instance. It's not the same as expressing your opinion about a color of this is different. Be careful.
Well, I suppose. Okay, well, anyway. Well, that's it for tonight, folks. Signing off from Righteous Indignation TV News. I'm your host, Right Hypocrite. I guess I'll have to be careful about expressing my opinion in future for just stuff that's, is truly an opinion and a question of taste as opposed to, fact and whether or not I'm actually accurate. I might express an opinion on how to build a bridge, but since I'm not an engineer, you probably wouldn't want me actually building the bridge. All right. Anyway, okay. Well, thanks again, Dr. Binomial. Weird name, but anyway. Okay, good night.